Hello, it is Creature. Space Station 13 is a game that I played a lot, and it's very fun. However, I don't recommend you play it. As the melanated master once said, it's running on a game engine that is probably older than you, and the server capacity usually doesn't go over 50, and the game itself is a cobbled together mess, so every server was effectively running a different version of the game, and if you've noticed, I'm not using footage from 13 because I don't feel like installing that ancient abomination called Beyond onto my new modern computer. Space Station 14, however, I highly recommend. Welcome to Space Station 14. I will not ask how we finally got a fully updated and polished version of the game. I will be content that we got one and say no more. Space Station 14 is a cooperative role-playing game where you and roughly 100 plus people who are very unbothered by social norms have a job to do, and you all must work together to keep your slag heap of a station with a life expectancy of a mayfly functional, at least until the next shift. You are a crewmate, and your job is to just do your job. If you stay in your lane, moisturized and unbothered by what goes on in the other departments, you'll be fine. However, pay attention to your radio, because when the dead start walking, it's time to find an HEV suit and get the fuck out of there. Since, like other games I've talked about, your experience with Space Station 14 will vary wildly. So let's start with your first game and we'll go from there. For your first handful of rounds, I recommend going assistant, since most people will expect you to do literally nothing besides fuck with the system substations and burning your hands off. Most interactions are context sensitive, so you can right-click things either in the world or in your inventory and see all the different little things that you can do with it. Play around with it and ask for help whenever you need. A lot of the things from the original game have been simplified, so it's not that complicated. And there is an in-game help menu that is also pretty useful. I count 11 departments in total, including services and antagonists. Food services include chefs, cooks, botanists, and whatever. Your job is to make food. Botanists grow food, cash crops, drugs, and medicinal herbs. The food is given to the cooks for them to cook. And the meat, don't ask where we get the meat from. This is probably going to be one of the most busy of the lesser jobs you'll be having, because you're going to be servicing the entire station. And if you're a bartender, that goes double for you. Civilian jobs, or assistants, are, in my mind, effectively the station needs. Assistants are going to be in all departments, so I'll just mention them here. Departmental assistants are just there to learn the job. Is this all they do? No. Ghost jobs. Ghost jobs are available to you whenever you inevitably die in brutal fashion. These can be anything from new lives as a cyborg or just running around as a snail. Medical is exceedingly busy, whether someone in R&D blew themselves up fucking with an artifact or some dipshit assistant burnt their hands off, there's always going to be some work to do. NGs are the ones that are trying to keep the station from falling apart. Again, if R&D fucked with an artifact and spaced their entire department, the communists are peacefully protesting by dropping dirty bombs or sacrificing crewmates to the devil, or some dipshit assistant has shorted the entire station's power grid by shorting themselves after breaking open a live wire, you will always have work to do. As it was described to me by the assistant wrangler for whenever I first started, 90% of the time is just getting drunk and maintaining power. The other percent of the time is fixing shit that the other departments have completely fucked up. Cargo is going to be, in my experience, the busiest department. Cargo is responsible for mailing people garbage and propaganda from either our glorious overlords or the traitors. The pipe bomb inside of the letter is a treat. And not to glaze Cargo, but they are the beating heart of the station. So show some respect, lest Cargonia reform and declare its independence from Sec and start a three-way war. Security is the arm of admin that keeps order and keeps people loyal to Nanotransit until it isn't. My advice is, unless you are Sec, avoid Sec. R&D is extremely fun and is by far the most dangerous job on the station in my experience. Your entire job is getting tech points to unlock things for the rest of the station. This is achieved by dicking around with ancient alien artifacts that can either print money or blow up the entire department less than 10 minutes into the shift. or attempting to contain anomalies without getting incinerated or teleported to another dimension. Scientists are considered to be relatively fleeting, however, the hazard pay is definitely worth it. Janitorial is last but certainly not least. The Jannies are the final line of defense between the station and utter fucking chaos. I don't know why, but the femtosecond parts of the station start getting dirty, all hell breaks loose. Space Station 14 and 13 have not only made me a believer in, but an advocate for broken window policing. Space Station 14 and 13 are very, very good games, and I highly recommend you get Space Station 14. It's free and it's on Steam, but as stated previously in the video, your experience in Space Station 14 is going to vary wildly depending on which server you actually join. So, considering at this point our games are going to be very different, allow me to regale you with a few stories from some of my previous shifts. Botany can be pretty fun if you know what you're doing, and in the previous game we're the go-to guys for any illicit substances. However, since there are no hallucinogens or opium in Space Station 14 yet, a lesson me and a Mothman learned after the Mothman was asked nicely by the magistrate to source comical amounts of opium. However, I aimed to please, so after the Mothman requisitioned a grinder and a chem mixer, my years of experience in the maintenance trap house came back to me, and we were able to make the best approximation in my opinion. After that round, I decided to go back to botany, where me and some chads quickly started mass producing crops for the chefs and the chemists. And after we got done with that, now what?
Listen, we need to cook. Okay. Why are you wearing a chip?
He got to work making various different things and got us a chem mixer, grinder, and all the other fun things, effectively turning hydroponics into the trap house. So he got to making whatever the fuck he was making, and I got to cooking some of the most diabolic shit this side of Alpha Centauri. He ended up making bee grenades, and I made joy. After spiking some of the food and testing the substance intravenously, we had achieved the desired effect. My compatriot had fucked off some time ago, and I was feeling that the station was on its last leg, so I rushed to start distribution. However, as I went out into the hallway, there was a firefight between Sec and the Nukies. I popped a few pills, grabbed a Syndicate SMG, and lit those traitors the fuck up. I'm not very sure that I should have lived, but I did. The chembot that was helping me mix things that entire round was in the medical side of the evac shuttle and was dumbfounded to see that I had somehow survived. In another round, I was a clown. Already pretty bad, but what is worse than a clown? A clown with a shotgun and a group of people to prank so hard that they're not gonna make it off the station. For those of you who aren't picking up what I'm putting down, I was a Syndicate Clown. So I got to clowning around and ingratiating myself as the station's fool by degrading myself by honking a horn and dancing around for the unwashed masses. Little did they know that if I had the choice, I'd kill all of them. After a bit, I fucked off to a secluded area, opened up my PDA, and picked up some useful tools, specifically a shotgun and an energy field. My first target was somebody by the name of Lilu, a research scientist that was not supposed to make it off the station. So I slipped into R&D about as unnoticed as a clown can be and waited for my quarry. When the tiny little Xeno thing showed up, I put 2 shots into her and tried to put a 4th into her head, but I was immediately assaulted by the other scientist, who I guess was hiding in the shadows with me. I was able to evade him, drop all of my incriminating evidence down the disposal, and scream for help that the scientist had lost his mind. And what happened next was not surprising in the slightest. It was as if the spirit of the RDM kid had possessed one of the scientists as they started screaming for the admins to ban me for RDM, while the med boys tried to heal me. The admin told the scientist, bro, he's fucking Syndicate. I talked my way out of a destruction of evidence charge for throwing the slugs down the disposal unit and for a possession of illegal military armaments charge by playing dumb. For those of you who are coming from Space Station 13, Sec ain't changed. After everything had cooled down a little bit, I went and got myself a pistol, but was quickly killed by a vampire because I forgot to turn the safety off. In another life, I was a scientist. The two main parts of science I love are artifacts and robotics. This time, I was doing artifacts, and with an assistant of middling competency, I got to work. And the first artifact was an artifact from hell. I should have known this since its very first request was blood sacrifices. And what did we get in return for my assistant beating a monkey to death with a hydrogen tank? Teleporting anomaly that sent my assistant to the fucking back rooms, I guess. And the artifact was conveniently placed in the observation theater. So I left the containment room for anomalous research and moved to another area where the artifact immediately filled the second containment room with a bunch of trees, 100 gallons of pure liquid potassium just spilt on the ground, and a rift to the shadow realm that was growing at an alarming rate. I tried to recruit anybody to help me in this catastrophe, but no one really gave a shit. So I attempted to contain it, couldn't, and then I just said fuck it and sealed it. After chopping down the trees and clearing out the eldritch smoke, I had to clean up the potassium. However, this would not be easy, because if you try to clean it up with water, so I got a syringe and cleaned it 3 milliliters at a time, and a Borg that was helping me out took the bucket that I inevitably filled and then just disappeared with it. After a bit, I emerged from my little containment room to find my entire department was subject to a xenomorph infestation, and they just never noticed me. So I joined up with Sec and avenged my fallen comrades. Me and the chef figured out that if we just lock the xenomorphs in the freezer, bolt the door shut, and leave it for the next shift, we're all gonna be fine. The last little anecdote that I'll give you, I feel perfectly sums up Space Station 14. I was playing R&D and had gotten a new assistant, since I guess we never figured out how to get the old one back, so I decided that I would take him under my wing and just show him the ropes. However, after a bit, it seemed like he already kinda knew what was going on. And then, after he hit me with an APE, I became very suspicious and was about 70% sure this motherfucker was Syndicate. So we went for drinks after I was done showing him around the department, and I could tell that the mental checkers game had begun. We volleyed back and forth for a few minutes as I was making up my mind about braining him to death with a crowbar. That was until the wizard showed up and reduced us to 2 piles of eviscerated flesh in about 15 nanoseconds. The round wasn't even 20 minutes in yet. Space Station 14. Shit just happens. Space Station 14 is an extremely fun game, and I highly recommend that you get it. It's currently on Steam for the low price of free, so the only thing that you really have to lose is time. Space Station 14 is a very good game. I highly recommend you get it, and the link to the Steam page is going to be in the description. That's pretty much going to be it for this video. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you on the next one. Peace.
Minding my own arm, and there he was, space asshole, in a truck flying off a bridge, space asshole, smashing through a bridge.